Welcome to the latest episode of The Financial Frontier. I'm your host, Patrick Camuso. I'm very excited for today's episode. Our guest today is Christophe Lassuyt, who is the CEO of Request Finance. Christophe has a lot of experience in this space, so I'm looking forward to speaking with him today. Christophe, thanks for coming on here today.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in Web3?
Yeah, I'm one of the rare people who started building on blockchain before buying my first Bitcoin.
Nice.
And it was in 2014. So in
Wow.
2014, my co-founder and I started building a remittance project, sending money from a country to another using Bitcoin as a backbone.
Wow.
And people did not know that we were using Bitcoin. They thought our product was an alternative to Western Union. See,
Interesting.
yeah, and that's basically how we got into crypto. I'm technology first, building first, and then I got a lot of other experience. Not only this one that was 3 years long, and also we launched a protocol. And also since 2020, Request Finance, that is basically doing everything a CFO needs from a transaction and accounting point of view.
Definitely. So can you tell me a little bit more about Request Finance and how are you streaming these finances for Web3 companies? Sort of give
Yeah.
us an overview on the different features and products that you guys are offering.
Yeah. So as you understood, I have been in the space for a long time. And at first, before being in the crypto space, I've been a CFO in Switzerland, in China. So basically overseeing Europe and also Asia, and then also small experience in the US.
Very
And when I had to deal with crypto as a CFO back in 2014, but even in 2018, I did not feel relaxed. I did not feel good at all. The authorities had no idea what I was speaking about. The
Yeah.
tax offices had no idea what they had to request of me.
Yeah.
So now, to answer your question, I think we are doing most of what's necessary from a transactional point of view for the CFOs because we help them with accounts receivable, so basically invoicing and getting paid. We help them with accounts payable, so basically paying bills all over the world, paying employees all over the world, and we help them with accounting.
Wow.
And on top of that, we've got payment capabilities to 190 countries with 20 different fiat currencies, but also in crypto with 20 different payment networks, including Ethereum, BNB, Polygon, and also 350 cryptocurrencies. So
Wow.
we've built a big payment machine at the service of the CFOs all in one place.
Very nice. Now, Web3 and crypto is a big industry with a lot of sub verticals, and they're starting to become more clear as time moves on. Is there a specific group within Web3 that you see using Request Finance more, or are you sort of serving the whole industry? Like, what sort of trends are you seeing there?
We serve the whole industry of Web3 native companies and a few non-crypto native companies as well. But the majority and where we've got some leadership is with metaverse and gaming companies with clients such as the Sandbox or Decentraland. And we also have very, very interesting use cases with Web2 or non-crypto businesses who need crypto for different reasons. And that's where it gets really interesting because I think we are contributing to mainstream adoption by letting CFOs have a safe, compliant place to manage everything crypto in terms of payments.
Interesting. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit? What one of these examples of a Web2 company that that's using Request Finance and maybe transacting in crypto in some regard?
Yeah. I start with the most basic one and give a second one that is a bit fun. So the most basic one is a telecom company that has basically antennas all over the world and is getting very, very low margins. Because they have very low margin, their cross-border transfers and especially SWIFT and banking fees are super high, like above 1%. And they can decrease those fees by 90% just by using blockchain. So basically, this group of clients is basically using a blockchain that is cheap, cost-effective, and secure, and making payments so that they don't lose all their margins to banks and SWIFT. And the second example is private jet company and helicopter rental company for mostly famous people, but also like CEOs of companies. So it's pretty private. But basically, what they need is they need to book a helicopter or a private jet tonight that will depart at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. They need to make a cross-border payments in the meantime. And good luck if you use SWIFT to do that. Like the payments is like 100K or 300K. Good luck if you use SWIFT and you think it will be received by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So basically, crypto has a good use case here as well.
Yeah, those are two very good use cases in terms of reducing fees and just increasing the speed of payments. And like you said, that is really, the benefit that crypto can offer to a lot of these Web2 companies. And it seems like you said Request Finance is sort of at the forefront of, leading this charge. So what is your longer term vision for Request Finance? As the industry evolves, do you see yourself onboarding more of these Web2 companies and transitioning them? Do you see the new features rolling out with the product, or do you think that what you guys have now is a pretty fundamental offer?
All of them, yes. Let me explain. I think we have a fundamental offering, and we can add a few features or products that are really key to our clients, mostly CFOs. I also think that there's going to be more and more volume. So basically, whenever we have non-crypto native companies as clients, they represent big volumes compared to Web3 clients, but they represent 20% of our client base only. And so basically, there is adoption going on from non-crypto clients. And I think it's going to be like one vertical at a time, one by one, like it was the case for internet adoption. Just like the same is happening for the Internet of Value and for its adoption. And it's starting with, of course, crypto native companies. But then you can see that there's plenty of marketing companies also in need of crypto payment capabilities, but also development companies in many different countries. And also for cross-border transfers, especially in like shipping or supply chain. And so basically there's like use cases by use cases. I believe we're not going to talk about Web2 and Web3 clients anymore. We're going to talk about hybrid companies. And the hybrid companies are the companies that are going to survive the next 10 years.
Exactly. Basically, everyone's going to come on chain to some degree in the future. And there's not going to be this big distinction between Web3 and Web2. Similarly, when the internet was first getting popularized and adopted, people used to refer to certain CPAs in that space as internet CPAs, just like they call me now a crypto CPA. But eventually, this all just becomes the new normal, and those distinctions are dropped, and it's just the new way of doing business, more or less.
Yeah, I think how we can define you is you are a CPA that is still going to be there in 10 years.
Exactly. And it's because we're early adopters to the new way of doing commerce here on chain. So switching gears a little bit, I know your Request Finance, they're able to offer payments in stable coins as well as in fiat and other cryptocurrencies. So putting the Web2 companies aside, looking more at the crypto native companies, like what degree are you seeing them use stable coins versus fiat payment rails?
Companies mostly use stablecoins. Basically, companies have to use stablecoins, in my opinion. But some of them, especially when they are crypto native, if they have their own token, I understand that they make lots of payouts as well in their own token.
Yep.
The grantors, so people actually giving grants to builders, of course, they pay in tokens most of the time. There's lots of bonuses also paid in tokens. But that being said, and despite the fact that we support 350 tokens, and among them there's like 20 stable coins only, we have more than 50% of the total volume that is in stable coins.
Wow.
And among them, among the steps, so we're talking about almost $500 million transacted in stablecoins for bill payments on request funds. And among them, number one is USDC, number two is USDT, and number three is DAI.
Very nice, very nice. And have you, over the past year or so, have you seen a growing demand overall in the stablecoin usage among these companies?
Yes, and I've seen something even more interesting. So companies are definitely adopting stablecoins for their payouts. Whenever it's a non-crypto company, they're adopting like either USDC or USDT. When it's a crypto native company, they were used long time ago to make payouts in Bitcoin or even in ETH, but not anymore. And they are all switching from volatile reserve currencies to stablecoins, because stablecoins is basically what people need so that basically the people and the companies do not take risks on their balance sheet. So that if you agree to get paid $5,000, then you really get $5,000 and not something that's moving a lot.
Exactly. Using BTC or Ethereum, I've seen that as well. It was more popular in previous years, and there's definitely a higher degree of just stablecoin adoption, and it's becoming the payment rails for these types of companies.
Yeah.
For the exact reason that you said, you don't want to have your company's revenue and your company's balance sheet exposed to this validity risk, where you can have a 10% or more movement in the price in a matter of a day or two. So do you see any current challenges that these companies are facing when it comes to using cryptocurrency for business? I know we touched on the validity risk a little bit, and I know that that's somewhat being solved by stablecoin adoption, but are there any challenges that these companies that are using request finance are just facing overall in the market?
So whenever we've got companies using request funds, we have actually managed together, sometimes with partners, to make their life much easier. But where there is a huge challenge is for the thousands of companies, for the hundreds of CEOs that I've talked with who would like to do such a move, but are frightened because of tax implications, regulatory landscape, and it's basically super hard for them to feel good with that. It's super hard as well for a CFO who does not want to do any mistake in his life. It's very important. CFOs are perfectionists.
Yeah.
To feel good with using stablecoin. And that's the reason why more regulations is actually going to help with more adoption, because they are definitely going to feel reassured. There's a regulation, you are basically respecting the regulations, and it's feel safe. And interestingly, with request finance, we basically help only the companies who want the best level of compliance. So they can document everything, they can make payments with proper documentation, they do proper verifications. We also do proper verifications on them. So whenever a company is a client of request finance, that's actually a badge of good compliance. It's good for the company. We're helping this way because I really believe that's how adoption is going to take place, with more compliance.
Absolutely. The compliance and the regulatory landscape really is taking center stage in these conversations regarding adoption and industry growth. How do you anticipate the regulatory landscape for cryptocurrencies evolving in the coming years? What are some of maybe the big roadblocks or changes that you see getting moved out of the way or just persisting here in the near future?
So there's two different perspectives. There's a perspective from us, because we've been in the space for a long time, and there's perspective from someone who is not in the space yet. For someone who is not in the space yet, they actually are going to see a world that looks simple, with just a few options, just a few stablecoins, just a few providers. for people like us, we're gonna see a division between the far west and the most compliant entities and stablecoins. And it's gonna feel a little bit bad, but it's part of the process. Basically, there's some stablecoin that will lose the game, and some other that are winning this game, and we are going to have to adapt to those because, like, it's not a religion. We're not maximalist about a stablecoin or another one. I just believe it's gonna help tremendously with processes. It's gonna help a lot with banking fees, with 24/7 payments, with instant payments at any time. And so there's so many advantages that we can accept that regulations end up simplifying the landscape.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you used to be a CFO yourself, and obviously at Request Finance, you guys are basically built and geared towards assisting CFOs and streamlining their back office. So
Yeah.
what would you say are the biggest challenges that a CPA or a CFO faces when they're just trying to like start to learn this industry, start to wrap their head around digital assets? Because obviously, like, we're going to see a big transition here, like we were saying, and there's going to be a lot of CPAs that haven't grown with this industry over the past decade and dealt with this learning curve, and they're going to have to sort of take it in as they're going along. So what do you think are going to be some of the biggest challenges for them?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few ideas about what are the biggest challenges, and I have a solution. So let me start with a few ideas and why, actually. I mean, I've been a CFO, but not only me. There's 3 other people in Request Finance team who have been a CFO.
Right.
And there's plenty of people, like, for example, our community manager is actually a chartered accountant. Like we've got a lot of experience with accounting and CFO stuff. Among the biggest challenges, there is clarity. So I mentioned with tax and regulatory landscape, clarity is very important. But I want to speak mostly about the second challenge, that is emotional state. Like, there's difference between feeling worried and feeling accompanied by a community. And so whenever someone is a CPA, for example, is following you, this person is basically gonna feel much better because their biggest challenge is that they feel worried about what they are doing. They are not entirely sure. They are new to the space. They need to find out things by themselves. They have no one to ask, really. I mean, they can always ask you. You are very available. And we've got a solution for that. So 2 biggest challenges, clarity and being worried.
Yes.
But honestly, as a CFO myself, I felt like I was going to go to jail 10 years ago when I touched crypto because people hated that. Like, everyone made me seem like it's not legit. But everything I've done all over the years was as legit and as compliant as possible, much more than needed. So now I feel great, but also because I'm accompanied and I'm together with 1,000 other CFOs and also CPAs like you in the Web3 Finance Club.
Yes.
So this club basically a place where people, whenever they've got a question, they can ask their peers. And it's a place where, like, barely 20% of people who want to join are accepted, and all the people who join are, we verify their humanity with a short 15-minute call. So that's basically a place where you can feel safe and you can learn a lot from other people. And whenever you've got something to teach to other people, you can share, but you're gonna feel challenged sometimes, and then you feel like you've got the best knowledge that is possible. Because the other people in the club are the CFOs at the Sandbox, Decentraland, Aave, Open Zeppelin. Like, they know a lot of things already. So I would recommend the club. Of course, I'm one of the founders of the club. I would also recommend to follow your LinkedIn and your YouTube, because you're also sharing lots of good tips. And that's reassuring. I think that's the most important right now at the stage of adoption we are.
Yeah, I agree with you. This, like you said, the regulatory environment here is constantly shifting and expanding and growing in complexity. And even as it stands right now, there's so many intricacies and different things that you're going to have to learn. And having a group to go to where you can just bounce ideas off of each other and get some confidence and clarity behind the approach you're taking is huge. And I say this as a CPA that for a long time in the early years, sort of had to learn this stuff the hard way without these groups in place. So I agree. I encourage everyone to check out, the Web3 Finance Club and, apply to become a part of that, because the more of these niche groups that you can get in that are going to be just thinking and sharing this information all the time, the better CFO, the better CPA you can become.
I would add actually that as a CFO, when I was CFO in Switzerland, I was very young, and I also managed some other CFOs in different places in the world. One of my biggest challenge, it was absolutely not related to crypto, but one of my biggest challenge was to be able to watch the news, regulation, tax updates for different jurisdictions. Like, how do you find this information? And now it applies. With a community like this one, you basically are almost 100% sure that you are going to see what's new and what you need to be careful about. So that's reassuring, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's new updates, new things to learn every week in this space. And like you said, this is a global industry, especially if you're working with Web3 businesses. A lot of them are going to not just be US based, they're going to have an international component, especially if they're looking at doing it GE. So you really want to stay updated on the global landscape related to this regulatory environment. So do you have any, I feel like you said, Request Finance is sort of at the forefront of leading adoption in the crypto space because you're onboarding businesses to these payment rails and to this whole back office. So what are your predictions for the future of cryptocurrency adoption and its overall impact on mainstream financial practices?
Super interesting to do predictions. It's much harder to be right about predictions, but I'm trying to be right. I think it's gonna take 10 years. I think within 10 years we're gonna have a mainstream adoption that has happened, and that lets the companies that don't adopt crypto in a bad place in 10 years. And one of the reasons is directly related to regulatory, but also to inflationary pressure, also to de-dollarization that could be countered with adoption of crypto stablecoins pegged on US dollar. I think there's so many opportunities there, but likely it's not gonna take place in 1 year like we all expect. It's gonna be slow, and 10 years actually is not slow.
Yeah. These things definitely take time. We both noticed because we've been around in this industry so long, and it's taken some time to get to this point. But looking back, it's really a blink of an eye. And if this, if what you're predicting sort of aligns with what transpires, which I tend to agree with you. Looking back on a decade, once we have this adoption and we're basically in a new way of doing business here, it's going to look like a blink of the eye as well. So I like that prediction because I love the idea of having another decade for us to, build and, improve our companies and just prepare for that, basically.
Yeah.
So Christoph, this has been really informative, and I appreciate your perspective on, all of these different topics. So briefly, if someone wants to get in contact with you, and then if someone wants to get in contact with Request Finance, and then also if someone wants to apply to be a part of the Web3 Finance Club, can you just give them some ideas on the best places to reach out to you?
Yes, to join the Web3 Finance Club, you only need to be a CPA or a finance person or a CFO with Web3 interest, and you go to web3financeclub.com. You apply there, it's going to take you less than 1 minute. To reach out to me or to Request Finance, LinkedIn and Twitter, or directly talk with someone in the team. If that's like an emergency, you can find the time the same day on the website, request.finance.
Awesome. So everyone go ahead and do that. Check out request.finance, check out the Web3 Finance Club. I think they're both great companies and can add a lot of value to you if you're a Web3 CFO or CPA. So Christoph, again, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. It was a very valuable conversation. To everybody out there watching, I hope you took value from this conversation today. And until next time, I'm Patrick Camuso signing off.